A sports psychologist working with hockey players has found that players' knowledge of physiology predicts the number of injuries received over the subsequent year. The regression constant in the linear prediction rule for predicting injuries from knowledge of physiology is 11.40. The regression coefficient is negative 0.50. Complete parts A through H below. So we got a lot of parts here. We'll go through these one at a time. So our predictor variable is, let's see what to say here, that the player's knowledge of physiology can predict. So player's knowledge of physiology is our predictor variable. And the criterion variable, and this is also, the predictor variable is also called the explanatory variable in many contexts. Criterion variable is also often called the response variable. So what are we measuring here? The player's knowledge and the number of injuries they receive, right? Okay, so often we're actually given the raw data and we just run the regression. It gives us the equation. But what do those pieces actually mean? That this is actually a little bit easier. We don't have to do any of that. It tells us that the regression constant, so the constant term, and like sort of the y equals mx plus b, that b is the constant. So that is, and they revert often in statistics. We reverse that around for various reasons. For now, just sort of accept it. That we'll often do the b plus mx. And so our constant here was 11.4. And then the regression coefficient, negative 0.5. So negative 0.5. So now indicate the predicted number of injuries for an athlete whose score on the physiology test is 0. So now what are we doing? We're just going to plug a 0 in for the x. And when we do that, I'm just going to get 11.4. Because 11.4 plus negative 0.5 times 0 is 11.4. Now indicate the predicted number of injuries for an athlete whose score on the physiology test is 1. Okay, so 11.4 plus negative 0.5 times 1. Okay, so I know this one is one you can do in your head, but let's go ahead and just show you on the calculator. So we're just doing 11.4 plus negative 0.5 times 1. And we get 10.9. Now predict it with when the score is 2. So very similarly, you can put it back in, 11.4 plus negative 0.5 times 2 this time. And you get 10.4. It's going to be going down 0.5 each time. So 10.4. That would be expected, right? I mean, the higher you do on the test, the fewer injuries you're going to get. So now predict the number of injuries for an athlete whose score was a 5. Okay, very similar. Just put that in. 11.4 plus negative 0.5 times 5, you get 8.9. Last one, very similar. I thought they would ask you kind of the reverse. If they, in this case, is get 8.4. If you've got 7 injuries, what would your predicted score be on the test? We officially can't do that. We can't go the other direction, but sometimes textbooky type problems will actually ask that. So was that 8.4? 8.4. Or we could have just subtracted 0.5 from 8.9. That may have been how they wanted you to think about that. Okay, so I hope that helps.